Alright, so what I want to do in this video is I want to create a template, and I want to have that template hold a bunch of different processes that are involved with clusters. That's much easier. So I can create a component called, let's say, create a cluster. I can make an individual process for that one. I can also create a component and call it add cluster member, start cluster, stop cluster, and I can have individual processes for those as well. But that gets pretty big, right? Because that means I have a whole bunch of processes and a whole bunch of components that are not necessary. So if I just create a template, I can go ahead and add all of those processes to one template and add it to one component and just choose what I want to do at that time. So right here we're going to go to create a template. We're going to call the template working with clusters. And we'll hit save. Now we're going to go to processes. I need to create a process. This first process is going to be called create cluster. Now I don't want, if you remember the MCWAS videos that we had watched earlier, or that I did earlier, if you'd watched those at all, that you notice that the import creates a version when you import your config data. Well, we're creating something for the first time, so we don't really have a version yet. So we want to do operational with no version needed for this type of action or process. I'm going to go ahead and create another process, and I'm going to call it cluster member servers. So this will be adding cluster member servers. And I'll also go ahead and operation not needed, save. And I'll create another one called install app cluster. Again, apps can have versions, but I'll just do operation no version needed. And then we'll create another process, and we'll go ahead and call it stop cluster, and we'll again just make it operational, no version needed, and we're going to do start cluster and then operational version needed. Okay, so here are all my processes, right? So create a cluster. I need to create this process over here. So in WebSphere, I have the IBM WebSphere application server plugin. So here we go, create cluster. Bam. There it is, create cluster. Cluster name, let's call this cluster Radiohead, right? Okay, so then we're just going to hit save. That's it. We're going to draw our lines in this tiny little window here. Bam. And we're going to go ahead and hit save. That's done. Then we're going to go back up to our processes. We're going to go cluster member servers. This one we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull the create cluster member action out. We're going to throw it on. Cluster name. So the cluster member, the downside to this is that it actually assumes that you're going to make a cluster when you make a cluster member, which we don't do, right? So you have to kind of make your own custom plugin for adding a cluster member to an existing cluster, but I've already done that actually. If we take a look here, here's the raw script, right? This is all the script you need to create a cluster. Pretty simple. Then here's the groovy code. I can go over a video on how to do all that stuff if the need is there. But anyway, this is just an example for templating, so I'm just going to put that stuff in. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. We're not actually going to use this specific component process, but for the example, so that you have an understanding of how it all works, I'm going to build it out for you a little bit. So we'll hit save, and we'll hit close, and then we'll go back to processes. So basically I build a process for each one of these, alright? I'm not going to do that here because that's going to take too long, but that's what you do. So then I can go to a component. I can go create component, right? I'm going to call this clustering. And my templates, I'm going to go ahead and add my working with clusters template. I'll work with the latest. And then I'll hit save. So now you can see, look, I have all of these processes, right, for this one component. So how perfect, right? Now I could have created a component called cluster member services and made a process. I could have created another component called create cluster and install app and all that. So I could have created all of these components, but it's just a lot more work. And this product, if you've ever used it before, is very component heavy and it gets a little bit out of control. So I like to use templates personally. So we'll have that templates, right? So now all I have to do is go to my resource tree. So let's go to my WebSphere. Click on that. We'll do production. I'll just throw it in production. It doesn't matter to me. I'll remove this one, which was one that I had going earlier. But I'll add one because I want to add it there. So I'll add component. And I'm going to add the... Well, first, I have to actually go to the application. I have to add my component to make it available first. So let me add my clustering component. Hit save. Now I can go back to my environments, my production, and I can go ahead and now I can add clustering component. Clustering, there it is, and I'll hit save. And remember, this doesn't need a version or anything. So now I need to make an application process for this. So let me go over to we go back to applications. Click on it, and we'll go to processes. And then if I want to create a process, I'll call it working clusters. And then we'll just hit save. And this process is going to basically be a process for, here's clustering, right? Well, here's all my processes for clustering. So there's two ways I can do this, right? I can put all of these on this screen and put checks in there and say, oh, if I'm doing this one or that one, but that's a bunch of work, right? I just want an application process, right? And I want to create a cluster, so I'm just going to drag it over here. Boom. My name, we're going to call it create cluster, and then we're done. That's it. Boom. Then I just drag this to here. Bam. And then we'll drag this to here. Boom, and then we'll hit save. And that's it right there, we're done. So now I can go back to my application, I can go back to WebSphere, I can go to prod, and I can run it right from here. And I can say clustering. This is the one that I want to run. I can hit submit, and then it should not mapped. So that means at our application server, let's check. Clustering is there. Let's double check our application. Double check our processes here. Working clusters is mapped. So I actually want working clusters, not clusters. That was my mistake. But anyway, we'll hit submit, and we'll try this again. Now it's running. Alright, and we'll just wait for this to finish. Alright, well, it finished. Looks like it passed. So let's go check it out. So we'll go up to our target system here. We'll click on servers, server types. We'll go to clusters. Actually, we want cluster servers. Let's see if we built ourselves a little cluster. Which we did. Alright, I didn't know if it was going to work there because apparently I had to log out and log back in of WebSphere. So yep, there it is, radio has my cluster. Your cluster starts whenever you start a member of that cluster. I don't have members of this cluster yet, so I can't technically start it. But yeah, creating cluster members is easy enough, and like I said, I got the custom plugin I can talk about too if needed. So just let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll just be working my way through the plugins and showing you guys how it all works. there's a specific action you want to know or something you want to know sooner than maybe than what I'll get to it in, just let me know. All right, thanks.